Welcome, Tactical Technician Diagnation. We got a crazy one here. We're going to talk about the effect of a bad PCM ground on a myriad of different signals in harmony or in unison at the same time, and see how a bad PCM ground can affect so much. We have the 8-channel scope hooked up. Now, I'm not saying that we have to use the 8-channel scope to diagnose cars all the time. It's in some situations. Here, I'm just using it to prove a point, to see about a bad ground, the effect it has on so much at the same time. If we see a bad ground on a map sensor, we have a map sensor code for high voltage. We don't want to throw a part at it. We want to prove out the reference voltage on the ground and trace that ground to where it is broke or compromised to see how that's affecting it. So there's the bad ground on our schematic. You can see that's the PCM ground. I will make and break the ground and watch the way it affects on all our channels. I will explain each channel as we go down the line. Channel A blue is the negative side of the control side of injector number 4. Channel B is the CAN network at the PCM. It's a 1/2 of the F CAN, which is a dually. It's two wire CAN. This is just one of them on this car. It's between the PCM and the gauge control module. Channel C green is a current ramp of all the ignition coils. Channel D yellow is the map sensor signal. It'll be more gold or bronzy on the scope. Channel E purple is the ignition trigger for ignition coil number 1. Channel F gray is the current ramp of all the ignition coils. Channel G light blue is the signal wire for the coolant temp sensor. And the final one, which is kind of interesting, this is burgundy, channel H. This is a current ramping of the wires going into the PCM, which I've only seen Bernie Thompson do this. The only guy I've ever seen do this. I think it has a lot of diagnostic advantage when we know current flowing into the PCM. If we had another channel right here, okay, on checking voltage at those two leads into the PCM, and we lost it there, we know we'd search the circuit upstream on the vehicle. If we had current flowing and we lost it, and we didn't lose the voltage right here, we could infer that we may have a break internally to the board or the connector itself at the PCM. So just adds to your diagnostic arsenal, current ramping the PCM. It'll look a little weird on the scope because it's basically a myriad of current going in different places once it gets into the PCM. Could feed a solenoid, it could feed just a bunch of things. So it will make sense. It'll line up with certain things, individual scope signals, as you see on the scope. So I'm going to go over to the scope, and I'm not using a tripod, and I'm going to take one channel at a time and I'll explain. So channel A is the fuel injector, and that's right here. Okay. And we'll get in on that. This looks like that. That's our fuel injector on channel A. I'm going to start adding the channels. I'm going to go down the line. That's basically a good looking pattern. We got feed voltage here. We got ground here, which we'll see what the effect of the bad ground has on that flyback voltage. And then we'll go to channel, I'll turn on channel B. And that is the CAN network. That's right here. That's our CAN network right there. That looks good. It has a lot of encoded information between the gauge control module and the PCM on this car. Channel C is green, is the current ramp of the fuel injectors. You can see the green lining up with the individual injector number 4 right there. And then it has 3 more hits of the other injectors and back to 4. Channel D Channel D bronze that's basically our map sensor, our signal voltage. So we got a good looking voltage there. We're less than a volt, which is on a good Honda. Basically, we look right here and we can see those are vacuum pulsations. If we wanted to, key in on that, we're not really talking about that on this video. We just want to see that's a good looking map voltage for an idling Honda, about less than a volt. Okay, our next channel, channel E, is the ignition trigger for ignition coil number 1. Right here we come up to about 4.5 volts, and it kind of has a little slant. That's the current ramp, and then it comes back, and that's the PCM controlling that coil. So let's go to the next one. Channel F is our, okay, let's see that. Channel F is, let's see what we got here. Let's get the thing, okay. What we got here, channel F is our current ramp of all the coils. Let's get back to here, I'm sorry. Let me go live and get it rolling. Okay, I think I got to turn that clamp back on. My bad. That's what happens when you shoot live. Let me get that baby going. She's got a 15-minute timeout on this clamp. Okay, all good. Turn it back on. See, yeah. Okay, I'll roll the scope live so we can see what you can see what we're looking on channel F. There we go. Okay, now you can see that's your current. That's our current going through all the coils. There's our trigger I just showed you for the purple. Now there's our gray guy again, back to the trigger. So we can see that. Let me get a better look at that so you can understand it. Okay, let me go through a fire cycle. There's our trigger, and there's our coil here. Let me lower this so you can see. Okay, here we go. That's our ignition coil. That is 1342 for our current ramps on the ignition coil. So channel G is our temp sensor for the coolant temp, and that's kind of operating at operating temperature. So we're about I'm sorry, that's the air temp sense. Okay, same principle though. That's air temp, that's not coolant. So we're about 2.5. It is not coolant antifreeze, it is air, ambient air. So nonetheless, it's still a thermistor, and it's still going to be affected by a bad ground. So let's get to the final one. Channels is this is the one I kind of want to talk about. It's interesting. That's a current ramp of the PCM, going into the PCM. And it's a little crazy, but it does make sense. It's kind of like DNA. You know, you got to match it. It has a mate, it has something it matches up to. You can see here that there's an injector pattern, and there is that's the same current, because basically this is all the current going into the PCM, and that thing, that green channel is related. There's definitely a relation. It's the same current as the injector current. So basically, if you look at here, it kind of ebbs and flows. It is basically current flowing into the PCM and kind of paralleling out to various things. It goes to a myriad of different things. So you'll see the relationship between that and other things on the scope. So anyway, like for instance right here, you can see that that's our current flowing in, and that's our injector current. So here we go. Okay, so I'm going to get the scope running, and then we're going to see what it looks like when let me go to a longer time base. I'm going to go to 500. We're going across the screen now. That's a good looking uncompromised ground for I've got a lot of sunlight, for the PCM. So here we go. You can see that right there. I may want to turn this thing because I'm fighting with the sun. Any better or worse? Okay. Nonetheless, all right, you can see that. All right. Once we I'm gonna mess with the PCM ground to see how many things it affects and get right back to you. Okay, here we go. Okay, now we're back on the scope, and I'll stop the thing and we'll record. You'll see the moment when it'll stick out like a sore thumb. Okay, we're going back in the recording. There's good, there's good. There we go. There's what we broke. I'll concentrate for the video. I'll concentrate on this because it's nice. It's real clean. You can see a lot of the differences between how a bad ground affects everything I'm scoping here. I'll start with the injector, okay? And we'll look at the injector and we'll kind of look at it right at the demarcation line where things start going south on the injector. You can see an injector here, okay? You can see this. You see the ground go up. You see that elevated? That's affected by the bad ground right here. Let's go to a good one first, and I'll go to a bad one. That's a good-looking injector. That's before things start going south. Let me pan across and see if I can get it on when things start going south, you can start to see. Here you can see, okay, you see that upward looking ground plane? That's way undesired. If that got any worse, it could cause a misfire, and you know, you get a misfire code. But you know, you think about what you're diagnosing. That's the power of a scope. It sees certain things that other tools don't. Okay, channel B, real obvious is the can set. Look what happens to can right here. That's can, normal can. Then it starts going south and starts coming apart. That could be a no communication issue. That could be a myriad of different symptoms. If we had any kind of more expansive topology, if we had more modules on the car, that's something to consider. Channel 3 is the current ramping of the ignition coils. Now you can see, let me kind of clear things out of the way, and you'll get a better look at how the bad ground would affect. Okay, not much. You can see, let me get some vertical zoom on that, and you'll see. Right there, you can see there's less current flowing. Okay, Ohm's law, more resistance, less current. You can see the current drop from where it's normal right here. And then when the ground on the PCM got worse, we lowered on our current flowing through our ignition coils. So let's look at the other one, is the map sensor. That really got freaked out by the bad ground. That'll definitely muddy the water. See how bad? Here's a good map signal. Then things go south right here when the PCM ground got compromised, and the map is all over the place. That could make a car run rich. It could throw a code. It can cause a myriad of different things. So that's just something to be mindful of right here. That's a big elevation because of the bad ground. That's channel. That's the D channel. The purple channel, the fifth channel, is the current is the trigger signal going to the and that's coming way apart. You can see that. That's a good one. That's when the ground gets compromised. Things start going south, and we got a broken ignition trigger. See right there. You know, it's still somewhat there, but it's elevated. Definitely caused problems right there. The gray channel, which is the what is that? Okay, that's the current ramp going to the ignition coils. And let's get back to our moment here. Strictly the gray. I'm going to try something here. I'm going to take I'm going to do for the rest of the thing. I'm going to get rid of a bunch of. Okay, that's maybe okay. That's maybe I probably should have done it. You see how now you can really see the difference right there. You see how things start going less again, more resistance, less current, and that's the effect on those ignition coils. Again, that can cause misfires. So when we're going to the next one's channels, I'll turn the other guy back on. Again, light blue, which is our temp sensor. Look at that. That's our temp sensor right there. And look at it getting higher. That would depict things are colder. That could muddy the water. You see that thing? You can see the normal voltage here on a temp sensor, and then it goes a lot higher because of that bad ground. Doesn't mean it's a bad temp sensor. Doesn't mean the ground wire or the wire between the sensor and the PCM is bad either. That's just one ground affecting so many different things. Let me go to the final one, which is right here, and that's our current. We'll take a look at that. Let me get back to, I'll turn everybody off but that one. Okay. Now we got a bird's eye view. You can see it. See that? That's the normal current flowing through the PCM. It's a little hashy because it's so many different things going different places. And then as things go south, you can see a lot less current flowing through that PCM. So that's one of those things we always want to watch out for a bad PCM ground. And I know this was kind of a rough video, but it's the point that matters, is that, again, you don't have to use 8 channels to diagnose everything. But if you were scoping just a map sensor and you saw that elevation, you think about, you know, a PCM ground, you'd have other symptoms, but just something to be mindful of. Thank you very much for watching.